Welcome back, attendees. It's now time for our second session. I want to invite Mr. Sammy Borothi from Jinko Solar for sponsor presentation.
Sir, kindly share your screen and start with the presentation.
We'll just take a moment to fix the presentation. Please bear with us. All right, we can have this presentation later and begin the panel. Um, It's time for our panel discussion on how mini grids are electrifying the region. In the esteemed panel, we have Ms. Joan Shahenza from Africa Mini Grid Developers Association, who's also the moderator for this session, Mr. Onesmus Muli from Jinko Solar, Ms. Morgan Gauthier from NG Energy Access, Mr. Nicholas Selby from Renuvia Energy, Ms. Judith Weir from PowerGen Renewable Energy, and Ms. Annette Mumbi from Cross Boundary. Welcome all panelists on the screen, and I'm now handing over the session to Ms. Joan.
Thank you so much, Menkashi. This is really a lovely opportunity to have time to discuss, the mini-grid space and see the progress that we have made as a sector. And I'm really excited that, of course, mini-grids are, recognized as a least cost electrification modality for electrifying rural households in sub-Saharan Africa. And we have seen that 500 million households, of course, are anticipated to be electrified by mini grids at least cost. And we have seen, of course, mini grid development in frontier markets. We have seen Nigeria really taking off with mini grid development, Sierra Leone through their RIP project, and we've seen, mini grids really, powering households in Sierra Leone. In Kenya, mini grids are really a success. Ethiopia, there is a very large program that has been earmarked for mini grid development. And, of course, we also see other jurisdictions like Mozambique coming up. So we are seeing companies really on the pathway to scale, and we're really excited to have this conversation and really get industry perspectives from the mini grid developers in this call, and also, the ecosystem players and industry stakeholders. So to start us off, I'd like us to begin by really giving a short introduction of the company and the organization that you work for. And I'll begin by Annette. If you could kindly tell us a little bit about Cross Boundary and the work that you do to support the mini grid development in sub-Saharan Africa.
Thank you very much, Joan. My name is Annette Mumbi. I work at Cross Boundary Energy Access, which is a financing platform that invests in mini grids. What we do is that we partner with developers to finance their entire pipeline across Africa and then contract them to be the long-term maintenance and operator for these mini grids over, say, 20 years. At Cross Boundary Energy Access, we just recently raised $25 million for mini grids in our scale-up platform. And we made the announcement in June, and our investors include Microsoft, Bank of America, and Arch Emerging Market Partners. Our goal at Cross Boundary Energy Access is to raise and deploy $150 million for mini grids over the next 3 years to bring power to 1 million people across Africa. We're a Pan-African company, and we've committed capital in Tanzania, Nigeria, and Zambia purely for mini grids. and we have pipeline that includes Kenya, the DRC, Nigeria, Togo, and Madagascar. Thank you, John.
Thank you so much, Annette. Next, we'll go to Morgan.
Thank you, Joanne. So I'm Morgan Gauthier, working for NG Energy Access, which is a company powered by NG, where we are doing some mini-grid and solar home system. We have in Africa 16 mini-grids under operations, and part of that 14 are in East Africa, in Uganda, Tanzania, and Zambia. Historically, our first mini-grid has been constructed and developed in Tanzania, where we have 12 mini-grids in operation there. And the oldest one, I think, is 6 years old. And I am acting as a technical and operation manager, so supporting the technical team which are doing the maintenance of the site in the field.
Thank you so much, Morgan. Judith Were.
Thanks, Joanne. Judith Were from PowerGen. PowerGen has been around since 2011, and we got into the mini-grid space in around 2013, 2014. So we've been here for quite a long time, and we've also built our own assets, including others for third parties. And I can see many of our partners are here on this call, which is a great thing, just to see the traction that we made in this industry. And currently, we have scaled in 5 countries across Africa. We've built different modules of mini-grids in, I would say, 12 countries in sub-Saharan Africa. So we have a large footprint across Africa by doing C&I and mini-grids, large mini-grids as well for our partners. And we are scaling into other markets as well, in places that maybe some people would consider high risk, like DRC, because there's great opportunity in such markets. And we have built this capacity in-house over time. So in a nutshell, that's who we are. And currently we are in the 3rd round of a fundraise. We are looking for money to scale into these markets and to expand our current markets.
Thank you, Judith. We'll go to Nicholas.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nicholas Selby. I'm the Director of Engineering for Renuvia Solar Africa. We are a PV EPC company, or engineer procure construction company. We also do operations and maintenance. I'm based out of Nairobi, and Renuvia has mini-grid projects all across Kenya and also a bunch in Nigeria. We also do some C&I sprinkled throughout as well. I'm actually at a construction site right now, which is why I've got a bunch of inverters behind me. We're just finishing up a 541 kilowatt grid in a refugee camp in Turkana. Yeah, that's me.
Thank you, Nicholas. Last but not least, Onesimus.
Thanks, Joanne, for the introduction. So my name is Onesimus Luli. I work with Juniper Solar, based here in Nairobi, Kenya, representing East Africa, majorly on the commercial part. And we are a big team across East Africa. We have a technical support team with our development. And majorly for us, we are an OEM as Zinco of majorly PV panels. And in the recent times, we've also ventured into doing storage, just with the aim of just trying to support the access to green and clean energy as well. So we'll discuss more during the conversation.
Thank you so much, Onesimus. And I realized I'd not introduced the organization I work for. So I am Director Energy Access Financial Advisory at AMDA, which is a trade association for private sector mini-grid developers in sub-Saharan Africa. So far, we've got 42 developers across 19 markets, and we exist to create an appropriate financing and policy landscape that will then scale the sector. So without much further ado, I'd like to start the conversation and ask Annette to start us off. Annette, I'd like to hear your thoughts on why mini grids are the pillar for national electrification plans in the region.
Joan, I'm going to have to unfortunately interrupt this. We have Mr. Sami Borothi back with us for the presentation. We can have his presentation and then continue the panel discussion.
Okay.
Mr.
I stand
Sami,
guided. Thank you.
right. Mr. Sami, you can take over. We can have your presentation now.
Thank you, everyone. I hope I'm audible enough.
Yes, sir, you are.
So I don't know. I request, are you able to share the presentation from your end? Because I still have a challenge.
Right, I'll just check with my team.
Sir, what problem you're facing exactly? Can you help me understand?
I'm not able to, let's see. I'm not able to share the screen.
So if you click on the present to audience tab, just at the bottom of the screen, you will be able to present your screen. Yes, sir, you can see the screen.
Okay. So I hope it's now clear.
It's clear, sir. You can proceed.
Okay, thank you. So thank you, everyone. Thank you to every participant who is participating in this forum. So my name's Sami Borothi. So I do work with Jinko Solar as the Business Development Manager, and I'll be taking you through this session of who we are and how we operate in the East African market and in large the Sub-Saharan market. So to start it off is that Jinko Solar, we are a global solar PV manufacturing company with a global supply in terms of delivered modules of 100 giga. And we command a market share of 12% globally. And in the sub-Saharan market, we are the leading in terms of the global, the shipment for the sub-Saharan market. Then in terms of the records that we've managed to achieve, we've managed to achieve a total of 19 world records. And we have a module capacity in terms of production of 50 giga, as you saw from the previous presentation. So as Dinko, part of our profit, we do invest back in our R&D. And as you can see, this is a clear highlight of how we've been improving in terms of our technology from the previous year. And we've managed to break the 19th world record in that currently we are looking at we've been able to achieve modules with efficiencies of 25.7%. And this technology, we are very optimistic that this will be the next technology for the next decade. So we are the leading in terms of the global production capacity in terms of this technology. We call it the N-type TopCon. It's a monocrystalline module. So as you can see, from where we started with the N-type. So initially, our modules had efficiencies of 22.12%. Then due to the amount that we plow back in terms of our profit, we've managed to increase that efficiency to 25.7%. So you can see in terms of the patents, we've managed to get 1632 patents, then 968 are authorized. Then as you can see, in terms of the R&D team, we have 900 plus engineers and scientists who were able to represent us in terms of the R&D. So in terms of production facilities, we have factories stationed all over the world. So we have one factory in the US, in the Florida. Then we have about 8 factories based in China. Then we have a factory in Malaysia and Vietnam. So in total, we have a production of 12 production facilities. Then in terms of employees globally, we are looking at that 1,000 employees. Then again, just to make sure that we're able to support our customers, we have 35 service centers globally and a customer base of 3,000 plus. Then we cover 160 countries.
We'll try to connect with Mr. Sammy. Please bear with us.
So in terms of our core business, so we in the production of the wafer business. So we also produce cells and then modules. Then we also produce what we call the BIPV. These are building integrated photovoltaic cells. Then we also have the ESS, which is our storage solutions. So I'll be talking more on the modules and the ESS. And probably from the previous session, just to again reiterate on why probably the pricing for modules has gone up is number one, as you can see from the first picture, we have the wafers, and it takes a lot of energy to produce the wafers. So previously, most of these wafer producing plants were running on coal. And as you understand from the COP26, it was agreed that all coal plants should be shut down as we approach 2030. So this has led to an increase in terms of the unit cost of energy to produce a wafer. So it has a ripple effect again on the final price of the module. So we're expecting that this price would probably keep on rising and probably will stabilize at some later stage. So that is one of the main cause of our modules prices going up. Then again, there's the issue of domestic demand in China. So what is our product roadmap? As you can see, Jinko, in terms of our product roadmap, from the far end, we have modules, the N-type and the P-type. So P-type has been our main previous mainstream product, but again, we are moving away from that technology in that now we'll be, we have moved to the Tiger Neo, and we are focusing on the 182 millimeter cell. So as you can see, we've been growing drastically. So from the far end, you can see that we have what we call the Tiger N-type. So our smallest module in terms of power class is a 380. Then we also have the range of 400 to 475, which is at the peak in terms of the 400 power class. Then we also have the Tiger Pro, and we again looking at modules between 415 to 450, which is our biggest in terms of the power class size. Then the last column, what you see is our Tiger Neo, which is now our mainstream product. These are products that we launched early this year. So, and at least for this year, we are hoping to supply more than 20 giga of PV in terms of the Tiger Neo. So our highest power class is at 610. We still have a 605. So you can see in terms of the IPP projects, in terms of utility scale projects, then this is an ideal product that has more efficiency and has, in terms of project, in terms of the LCOE, it has again a ripple effect on the final cost of the project. So these are some of the products that we are now recommending to our partners in terms of the IPP working on utility scale projects. So as you can see, our products, or what we call the N-type solar modules, we have the Tiger Neo 54 cell. Then we have the Tiger Neo 60 cell, all the way to the far end, whereby we have the Tiger Neo 78 cells. So it's good to highlight again, as Jinko, we have what we call the monofacial and the bifacial. So the Tiger Neo 54 cell, we are looking at a power class of 430 watt peak. To the far end, whereby we have the bifacial, we having cells up to 600 and so a power class of 610 with 78 cells, and the wafer size is 182 millimeter. So as you can see, the bifacial would definitely have more power. And as you can see from the diagrams, again, we're able to give you a warranty of 30 years in terms of power warranty. So why Tiger Neo? This will be the technology, as I mentioned, that will be core in terms of propelling our growth in terms of the next decade. Number one, why efficiencies of up to 25.7%. Then our mass production started in Q1, and we are targeting to ship at least 16 giga globally. Then these modules, again, we are saying for utility scale projects, we can assure our customers that it has the best yield in terms of the rate. Then in terms of cost, we are saying that our cost is competitive due to the technology that we're using, that we call it the pack technology. So in future, we shall be looking at what we call the HJT technology that our R&D is still working. So probably this will be technology that will come into place in coming years. So in terms of, so this is very important, especially for people who are doing the CNI projects and for people who are developing projects in utility. So as you can see, we did a comparison of two install sites, one using the Tiger Pro and the other one using the Tiger Neo. And then from these, because from the previous conversation, we mentioned about the LCOE. So from these, because of better efficiency, better LID, and temperature coefficients, as you can see that if you take an example of the site in Hainan, China, whereby we considered the N-type and the P-type. If you check in terms of the IRR improvement, so the price, in terms of price, if you compare the price of an N-type and a P-type, the price for an N-type in terms of being premium and an improved product, you can see the price increased by around 0.47%. Then in terms of generation difference, you can see we are looking at the bottom there, you're looking at 0.49%. So if you add up all this together, then you will see that the generation difference for the N-type, we are looking at 3.42% increase in terms of the yield generation. So this tells you that for utility scale projects, so this is a better product with improved efficiency, and this will actually again save your costing in terms of the BOS, and you'll have an increase in terms of how much you're able to generate in terms of yield. So again, in terms of our solutions for our storage products, we now have our storage products that we have supplied to a number of our partners. And what kind of storage products are we looking at? So our storage solutions would normally target different applications. So we have the residential storage solutions, we have the C&I, and we have the utility. So from the residential storage solutions, we are looking at storage solutions between 1 kilowatt hour to 50 kilowatt hour. So this is an application that we are purely targeting the residential homes and small offices. And the technology that we use is lithium ion. So it comes, as you can see, in the container. So it's more of a plug and play solution. So again, we can be able to give you a solution that is either hybrid solution, and again, we can be able to give you an off-grid solution under the residential application. Then moving on to the C&I space, we again saying that we have storage solutions for the C&I market. So in this sector, we are looking at storage solutions between 50 kilowatt hour to 1 megawatt hour. So these are applications that again we are targeting the what you call the off-grid or the mini-grid sector in terms of the application. Then for large utility scale projects, yes, we still in that space. So we are looking at solutions more than 1 megawatt hour that would actually help in terms of stabilizing the grid and then probably offer solutions to powering companies or during the night. So one is the issue of stability of power, especially when you have peak loads, and again, reliability in terms of power. So we have what, as Dinko, we have what you call the solutions in terms of what you call the PV plus. So in terms of PV plus, we are looking at solar and ESS. So solar and ESS means solar and energy storage solutions. Then again, as I mentioned earlier, we're also looking at solar plus building. This we are looking at the BPIV. Then it's good to mention because I saw one of the participants from Uptech, probably to mention that we still have solutions in solar plus water pumping. So for solar plus pumping, we can be able to give you a turnkey solution whereby we can give you solar. We can also supply you with the solar water pumping inverters and the solar pumps. So maybe it can be a submersible pump or a service pump. So in that area, we still have solutions that we're able to offer. Then at the far end, we have solutions in solar communication. We again targeting the telecommunication industries. We are looking at the BTS sites. So we still have solutions in that area. So I just want to share again on our production capacities, or what you're looking at when you say as Jinko. So these are our factories. So this is our new factory doing the Tiger Neo. So you can see that we're doing the TopCon cell capacity. So the factories have a production capacity of 16 giga. Then we have the factory in Malaysia that is able to do 6.4 giga in terms of cells. Then it is able to do 5.1 giga in terms of modules. Then the other one in the US, we are looking at 400 megawatt. So that is able to serve that market in the US market. Then we recently did have a factory that we opened in Vietnam. So it has a capacity of 7 giga in terms of the silicon wafers. So that tells you that one, we are a bankable partner in terms of meeting your supply demand, and in terms of meeting your delivery lead times for your projects. So as Jinko, we have diversified in terms of our customer base. So we have key strategic customers that we are currently collaborating. So we are looking at customers like EDF, NL, NG, we have Total. We also collaborating with different financiers, especially working with different EPCs at their very early stages of design. So we're able to assist them in terms of generating annual yields for their IPP projects, and this is able to guide them on how much they expect to generate using our N-type solar modules. Then other than that, we're still collaborating with them in terms of mini grids and our storage solutions. So these are some of our customers who are strategic, and there are more that we're still collaborating with. So as Dinko, we believe in CSR activities. So we do engage into CSR activities. So we donate modules to institutions. We donate modules to schools and probably hospitals. So recently, we did generate modules to Jomo Kenyatta University. So we donated our solar water pumping kits. We also donated solar modules. So we are currently collaborating with Jomo Kenyatta University in terms of building capacities, especially to the EPCs and the IPPs who would want to learn on our products, and also prepare the young engineers who are coming to the market. So again, we believe in CSR, and we do engage in such collaborations. So in terms of case studies, just to give the IPPs who may be viewing us in terms of development for the East African market, these are some of the case studies of modules that we have supplied as Jinko for previous projects. So as you can see in the first photo, we supplied the 55 mega in Garissa. Then we also supplied the 48 mega ELSO solar plant in Kenya, and the Radiant solar plant in Kenya. So in terms of, again, the visibility in terms of the module or the volume in terms of capacity, we are the leading in East Africa in terms of project size, and we're hoping to do more this year and in the next coming years. So this tells you that our product are good in terms of quality, in terms of bankability for projects, even for financiers. So in terms of case studies, again, we have supplied a number of case studies, storage solutions in East Africa, and mostly again in West Africa. So currently we are supplying again in areas like Mozambique. So these are how generally or typically our storage solution would look like. So depending on your storage requirements, then we're able to again offer a customized solution other than our standard solutions. So as you can see, what you see with the yellow loopings, these are the batteries, the lithium ion batteries. So that is the technology that we're using, and it comes in a full containerized solution. So the container is fully equipped with the power conversion unit. It comes again with the air conditioning unit, the fire suppression unit. So again, it is more of a plug and play. Then in terms of commissioning, we have a full support technical team who is able to assist you in terms of commissioning and in terms of offering the after sales support to our clients. So again, this gives you some confidence that we are a bankable partner to work with. So again, we have a case study in Nigeria, as you can see. So these are solutions that we supplied in the year 2021. So this is powering the Abuja market, and we are happy to say that we have some positive feedback that is coming because of our storage solutions. So we supplied these through our partner in West Africa. So what are the future strategies for Jinko? So one, we are fully aware that technology is changing very fast. So in terms of our future strategies, we're hoping that we'll able to digitize our processes, digitize our internal processes. Other than that, we again hoping to do more in terms of R&D to improve our technical manufacturing capacities. Then at the far end, again, we also care about the industrial ecosystem in terms of the environment and everything. So these are the key pillars that we are looking at in terms of future strategies. And again, we also looking into complying to a number of laws or factors that are dependent or are relative from one country to another. So we have received international awards. We did receive the top performer 2021 PVL. Then we also received the 2021 PV module index as Jinko. So as you can see, we have received awards from well-known, recognized, certified bodies, just to give confidence again to our partners in terms of the module performance, in terms of quality, and in terms of bankability. So it's good that I mentioned that as Jinko, we are aware of the current SDGs, and with that we have aligned ourselves, and we are a member of the United Nations Global Impact. That we are committed in terms of making sure that we respect and we align ourselves according to the UN Charter regarding renewable energy and green energy. So that's it with my presentation. Thank you to you all. You can reach me on my email below for any inquiries, and thank you all for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sami, for the insightful presentation. Joan, I would request you to proceed with the panel.
Absolutely. And taking cognizance of the fact that we have less than 45 minutes, we will kickstart the conversation. And I do hope that all my panelists are still there. And anyone joining us, we had already started off with a brief introduction of ourselves and our organizations. So I'd like to start off the conversation by having Annette take us through, why mini grids, in terms of, mini grids as the pillar of national electrification plans in the region. So Annette, please take us off, kick us off so that we can begin this conversation.
Thank you, Joan. So when developing national electrification plans, governments within this region have typically three key means to deliver electricity to their citizens. The first is main grid extension, the second is mini grids, and the third is solar home systems. And what we found is that for communities that live close to main grid transmission lines, grid extension is often the best or cost-effective option. But what you'll find is that in the region, many communities are located too far away from the main grid for a grid extension to be cost-effective. And this is where mini grids come in as a pillar of national electrification plans. Now, research has shown that mini grids are the least cost option for all these many communities that are typically located, on average, say above 25 kilometers from the main grid, and that typically have high population density. And what you find is that these mini grids can provide high quality electricity at a much lower cost because they combine, cutting edge technologies like PV, solar, battery storage. Sometimes they use diesel generators for backup. But we also have new technologies like mobile money and smart meters. And all the innovations in these technologies have meant that mini grids are more viable now than they were a few years ago. And even as we continue and the technology gets cheaper, then it means that mini grids continue to become more viable. And in the case of, to differentiate between the main grids and the mini grids, because a mini grid is independent of the main grid, typically, and it's centralized to one community, the distribution network of that mini grid will just connect the households and the businesses in that community, which makes the distribution cost more effective than if you had to run transmission lines across hundreds of kilometers. But and in terms of the third option, which is solar home systems, that option typically comes in areas where there's very low population density or the households are very widely dispersed. But majority of the communities you find have high population density but are too far away from the grid, which means that mini grids are the best option in that case. So in summary, generally, all the three options, main grid extension, mini grids, and solar home systems, all have a role to play. But given the way communities in this region are structured, because majority of them are too far away from the main grid, then mini grids become the most cost-effective option and should be considered as a key pillar of national electrification.
Thank you so much, Annette. And I'd like to ask the audience to please post your questions on the Q&A, chat box, and we'll be able to see them and address them. So I'd like to segue this conversation and bring in Onesimus. Onesimus, from your view, being, working for a leading O&M company, what is your perspective with regard to how mini grids are powering households in the region? What are the preferred models? I'd like to hear a little bit about that based on your industry experience. You're mute if you're speaking.
I'm audible now? Yes, so thanks, John. So ideally, as Zinco, we are an OEM, and with my colleague at we not only do PV, we also now doing storage. So we we have a responsibility to be able to provide this green and accessible energy to not only the house, the C and I's, but also the households. And majorly, this is because we are moving from this where we want to look at it from not only just for the normal powering, the normal lighting of the housing, but also how can it be able to make use of the productive use of energy. And one of the ways to achieve that is through the mini grids, which are powering households in the region and also other service providers. And I'll probably just basically just give you an example, I mean, there are two examples that I'm able to do, not through our solutions. And one of them was in Kisii County, where through one of the EPCs, and of course through using our solutions, we were able to provide power to a health center in it's actually called Matongo. And this health center didn't have they used to have frequent power outage, and these are really affected in the service provision of of that health center in terms of vaccines. They will probably expire because of lack of refrigeration. And when you come to provision of other normal subjects like simple surgeries, and also delivery, that wasn't really there. But after being able to come up with a solution, and more so, it was actually a mini grid, It was actually 8 kilowatts, though pretty much small, but there was a huge transformation in terms of the health facility, in a case whereby now they were able now to refrigerate their vaccines, so there are no cases of either expiry or even the vaccines going bad. And then also there was an increased deliveries in that health center. Initially they used to do about 2, and this was actually during the day, but now during the day they will do 4, and at night they will actually do 2. So cumulatively that's about 6 deliveries in a single day, coming down from 2. And that for us was one way of how the mini grid is actually transforming not only the household, but also the communities around in the areas where they are off grid. And then recently, where we also did our first mini grid, it was actually 1.1 megawatt hour with storage in one of the refugee camps actually here in Kenya. Same thing, just being able to provide power in households in the areas. That's actually one of the refugee camps. And when you just cross over to regionally, we have as well done the same thing in Ethiopia. So we believe mini grids are the way to go when it comes to being able to power households in the region. And when it comes to the model, as Jinko, we don't have a specific model that we would want to work with. Ideally, because we believe markets are different, and what we do, we work closely with the local agencies, local partners in each and of the different countries, and come up with a model that specifically works and is able to function in terms of cost, in terms of providing the amount of power that is needed, and also taking into consideration the rules and regulations in the different countries that we are fully represented. And just to finalize is that we tend to align ourselves with most of the organizations that are aligned, in terms of being able to provide the mini solutions. Also the EPCs, and also the humanitarian agencies, and also the major financiers who are able to support. Because for mini grids, we find they are quite costly, the capex, and you find if you do not have enough financing, you're not able to do that. Because that is one of the challenges that.
So Morgan, sorry, I'd like to hear Morgan's perspective on ESMAS. We will talk about the challenges and opportunities later. Okay. Morgan, maybe to hear your perspectives on what do you think with regard to, the role of mini grids in powering households, and I'd like to get your perspectives, and especially based on the country experiences and your deployment of mini grids within the region.
Yeah, or perhaps I will switch on the models that we prefer as well. So based on the experience that we had in the past, we realized that we have built some few mini grids that were too small compared to the increase of the village, and also with the increase of the demand, and especially with the productive users. So we have some sites where we are too short, and we cannot supply all productive user. So based on that, we have decided to switch to a new model, which is standardized models, where we propose 3 different types of sites. And it's also, we would like also to scale up faster the construction, etc. So we decided to do that, to go for that. So we have 3 different types: small, medium, and large, that can fit with 80% of what we can find in the village in Tanzania. We don't go for a specific technology, even though we prefer some, but we are working with EPC locally, as Onesmo said, and with EPC we are trying to find the best technology that we can use for that. We also, as we said, we also have a solar home system. So what we have decided today is to focus on the center of the village, where we have the most density, to offer the grids and mini grids to those people in the center of the village, and then to supply with people that are more outside of the village, to supply them with solar home systems, to in a way to decrease our capex for the distributions. So not to have some poles which are very outside of the village just for one people, for example.
Thank you, Ms. Morgan. I'd like to move and hear from Judith. Judith, from your wealth of experience as a commercial, in commercial development of mini grids, I'd like you to speak about the progress of mini grid regulations and contribution to energy access in the region. I know, there are several, mini grid regulations that are in development. Some have been completed. What is your view in terms of the role of regulations in terms of supporting infrastructure development of mini grids within the region?
Thanks, Joan. That's a great question. And for us to be able to appreciate the regulatory space, when you go back from the time we entered into this space in 2013 and 2014, basically there were no regulations in place. But because there was a problem and a solution needed to be found, we could not just sit around and wait for the regulations to be made in place. So we did some few pilot sites in Western Kenya and some in the Mara region, because in those areas, yes, there's power lines passing above those communities, but the people are not connected. So we built our first pilot sites. Of course, they were very small in size, but they were just for testing the concept. But from that, now the regulator was able to see that there are other players that are coming into the industry. And so, as you can see, between 2014, the first guidelines we got that were actually drafted were in 2018. And these ones were based off of the 2006 Energy Act. So from then, there was another update that was done last year. Actually, it's exactly a year ago. And then, yeah, so we can see that now the regulator is waking up. The regulator is appreciating these other players. They want to include them, and they did a good job, and we appreciate that because they had a public participation. They called in the other developers. They called in the other players like the AMDA, and also we have the community at large. Like they wanted to see these rural people, how they feel about having other players in the market. And it was something that now could not be ignored. So when those public participations were concluded, we are now currently just waiting for it to be gazetted. And interestingly enough, just in the past quarter through AMDA, there have been some very great conversations with the KPLC, with COSAP, the director of COSAP, and also we've heard from the Ministry of Energy through the CAS. They are very willing to support developers and other industry players to get this regulations gazetted, the ones that were drafted last year. So we are really looking forward to that. And also in terms of other developments, there have been research by EPRA on some of the key areas around the industry. Like for example, in the net metering regulations, this was just done this year. And I was happy to participate as well in the workshop that was done, I think it was a week and a half ago. And you can really see that they are in the weeds. They are really interested in trying to solve this problem and involve other people as well. And we are happy about that. So when you look at something like COSAP, in the beginning, they did not want to involve other private developers like ourselves. So that's why we moved to Tanzania and then we moved on to West Africa. But now they are open to actually looping in developers, and they are also willing to share the locations that they think mini grids will play a better role than actually the national utility. And that is what we are also looking into as we develop our projects in this region. But currently we do have projects in West Africa, Western Kenya, where we have grid extension, and we also have mini grids as well. So we've tested both concepts, and we think that once the national utility and EPRA and other players are able to partner with us, then we are ready to deploy. So we are ready and willing. So if anyone wants to partner with us on those projects, we are open to those as well.
Thank you, Judith. I'll come back to you a bit later to expand on some of the points that you've mentioned. However, I'd like to bring Nicholas into the conversation. And Nicholas, you have been a recipient of the Technical Assistance Facility, the Green Mini Grid Facility, that has been very catalytic within the Kenyan market. And, as we are talking about and having a regional focus and trying to see, the lessons that can be scaled and, of course, transferred to other markets. I'd like to hear your comments on, how the Green Mini Grid Facility can be replicated in other markets, of course, drawing out the lessons that you've learned as Renuvia.
Yeah, thank you so much, Joan. I'm happy to speak on that. Yeah, I would say in order to successfully replicate the green mini grid facilities in other markets, it takes something from everybody, right? So I'll break it down into three sections. On the regulatory side, it would be ideal to have standardized regulations for an entire region, right? Like for an EPC, for a mini grid developer to come in, it makes it much easier to enter a market and to work on these green mini grid facilities if the regulations are similar to what we've done before, right? So to have a standardized version of the regulation for an entire region would be extremely helpful. Things like having exclusivity agreements, like real exclusivity agreements, so that we can be guaranteed if we go in and we build somewhere, that, for example, I'm in Kenya right now, KPLC can't come in and build on top of us, or no other mini grid developer is going to come in and try to compete with us for the exact same customers, right? That's really important. Having tariff freedom, understanding that sometimes mini grid developers, we can get some kind of profit hungry and try to set the tariffs too high. But also, if we are forced to set the tariffs too low, right, it becomes financially impossible for us to build in a space. So places like Tanzania and Uganda are very, very difficult for us to build in right now because we don't have the freedom to set tariffs that we need in those spaces. On the other side of the spectrum, what you can do to help from a regulatory side is to subsidize mini grid connections, like they do in Nigeria, for example. That's extremely helpful. So that's the regulatory side. For the suppliers, I would say investing in local African support teams is extremely important. The Jinko BESS battery energy storage system product that was presented a few minutes ago, I'm at site, I'm staring at it right now, it's beautiful. We just installed our first one right here, and we've had a lot of trouble with it, particularly getting access to support teams. It's very, very difficult. We've had a lot of difficulty getting in touch with folks. So yeah, investing in local African support teams we found has been it would be extremely helpful and is extremely important. And lastly, on the money side of things, banks and investors, we would really like to see more bravery from banks and investors to branch into new markets, right? Particularly, someone mentioned earlier, kind of branching into DRC, right? The Congo has a lot of political turmoil right now, but the market there it's amazing. So many people want power, and there's such a need for green mini grid facilities there. And so on the money side, if you have access to, or if you're representing a bank or an investor in this space, I would say the time is now. The returns can be absolutely magnificent if you trust the people on the ground who have experience here. And so a little bit of bravery and courage to branch into these new markets, I think, would be extremely profitable.
Absolutely.
So, and regulatory, suppliers, and banks.
Absolutely. Those are really amazing points. And I'd like to bring Annette back to this conversation. And Annette, do you have any comments on what Nicholas has just said, and especially on the financing element?
Yes, so what I'd say is we've seen, I'd say in the last 3 years, there's been a lot of funding flowing towards mini grids in a lot of conferences like the COP26, a lot of, at Sustainable Energy for All conference in Rwanda, a lot of large investors are allocating money towards renewable energy projects. And we're at the point where, provided there's sufficient grant program, then private capital can be able to be invested alongside this. And we'll speak later about all of the challenges and the triggers to scale. But, going back to what Judith had mentioned about improving regulations, once there's a lot more clarity on regulations and subsidy programs, then private capital can have the confidence to come into the market.
Absolutely. So to start us off the conversation on challenges, and I know, sort of the conversation has naturally come to that stage where we're talking about, the challenges and opportunities. I'd like to go back to Onesmus. Onesmus, you had a thought about challenges, and I guess this is really the best place to talk about the challenges. And before I hand the mic over to you, I'd like to encourage our audience members to please post your questions and comments on the Q&A chat box, and we'll be able to get to them. So Onesmus, we start with you before we go to the mini grid developers.
Thanks so much, Joan. So as an OEM, one of the challenges that we are facing, not though directly, is where you find EPCs. There is the challenge that, of course, if they have to do two ways: either they have to do the rooftop or rooftop solar, or if they have to go the ground mounting. So that has really pushed us to be able to develop new solutions that are able to address the challenge of ground mounting, because ground mounting requires a lot of land and space. And one of the problems or challenges, of course, especially in this African region, is the acquisition of land. Either it's leased, if it's leased, you find that it has got issues with transfers. So they prefer to use rooftop solar, and actually that is what has pushed us to actually have the Tiger Pro 54 half cell that we're currently using with most of our mini grid projects that we are doing. And just to mention that we've also been using the same with REREC, because we're able to provide solutions with REREC for most of the mini grids that they've been able to set up, especially in Kenya as well.
Thank you so much, Onesmus. I'd like to go to Morgan and get your sense. Do you agree that those are the challenges within the sector? Do you have a different view? Obviously, as a developer, you sort of sit in a different point in the ecosystem. So I'd really be very keen to hear, what's in terms of the challenges, and especially when you're talking about the challenges, I'd need you to also articulate the need to scale up the mini grid development, right? So both the challenges and the opportunities.
Yeah. Thank you, Joan. I think a lot have been said already about the challenge. What perhaps we miss, it's also the regulation on the grid encroachment and the electrical plan of the government. So we see that sometimes there is lack of electrification plan in the government. And so they start to work on their side on the extension of the national grid, and then they give us some license to install some mini grid. But at one point, when the two are coming together, there is no solution or no regulation on that. So it's something that also we are facing. We are already facing some challenge in Tanzania. This is one of that. After the other things is also the anytime government is changing in some countries, we have new regulation on place, and so if I can speak about the Tanzanian tariff crisis, where we face a big challenge due to new decision of government. So this is something that needs to be highlighted. And also we spoke about DRC, so about the political instability in the different regions. So I don't know about the other company, but in our company, for example, we would love to go to DRC, but due to NG policy, we are not allowed to go in certain zones where there is a lot of need of access to the energy.
I'd like to hear, thank you so much, Morgan. I'd like to hear Nicholas's perspective. What do you think in terms of the challenges and, what needs to be done to scale up the sector, right?
Yeah, certainly.
From the perspective and the markets where you operate.
Yeah, certainly. Well, first of all, I want to echo everything that Morgan said. That was 100% on the nose, regulatory wise, and to add on to that, in addition to those kind of things, like I really do think, like we've seen in other regions of Africa, governments take very proactive steps, not only to ease regulation and make it more standardized and work with developers to create smart regulations, but also to incentivize the essentially incentivize the increasing your connection count, right? So, for example, if we can receive a subsidy to even just even like $50 or $100 to connect an individual house, suddenly like we as developers are incentivized, just let's connect everybody, give electricity to everyone, right? Like that is truly massive, and that is very encouraging to see. Kind of taking a step back from regulation too, I would even say, just kind of like echo my points from earlier, right? Suppliers investing in local African support teams, and then financial institutions being kind of brave and stepping out. I want to kind of highlight. I know the Rockefeller Foundation is currently investing in Ethiopian markets. That's really exciting to see. Even though there's some political unrest there, donors or donor organizations and big money is stepping in to make those markets more accessible and more viable for mini grid developers to come in.
Thank you so much, Nicholas. I'd like to bring in Judith. Judith, what are your thoughts? And I know you have to drop off, so please give us your thoughts. Plus, I'd like you to also tell us where you would like to see the mini grid sector in the next 5 years, even as you give us your thoughts.
Okay, yeah, so mine is just to echo the sentiments from Morgan and Nicholas about subsidies, because these ones play a very key role in terms of the tariff. And also just to second what Morgan has said on the tariff, we are also in Tanzania, and the regulation was so good, the environment was very favorable for developers, but with time it became politicized. And so we had to make some strategic choices because of that. But when we look at other West African countries like Sierra Leone and Nigeria, you can see that the regulators are very supportive. So that is what we want to see in this industry. We want to see a lot of support from funders. We want to see a lot of support from the regulators and from the utilities. They should not look at other developers as competitors, but rather they should look at them as partners. Because that way we all have the same goal. We are all looking at these sustainable development goals as one, and so we should work together, because there's like 600 million, although that number keeps changing. Right now, I don't know where it is. All these people need to be electrified, and we are all working towards that goal, whether it's through solar home systems or mini grids or the national utility. We are all trying to get this problem solved. So what we would like to see in this industry is for all the players to work together as one and not necessarily as competitors, so that we can all solve this problem. And then when we see at this things like technology, we need better integration, because, for example, if we want to do interconnected power grids with the national utility, you'll find that the technology is very different between the mini grid and the main national grid. So if there's a way that things like metering, remote monitoring, and the standards can all be standardized, so that it can make better, economical, and efficient interconnection, then that would help us all to solve this challenge that we have in this continent. So I think I'm very passionate at this, and I can go on and on, but with those few remarks, I think we would be able to tackle this challenge. So
Thank you so
thanks.
much, Judith. I know we have a hard stop at 5:15, so I will end with Annette. Annette, I'd like you to tell us about, what, from your perspective, what do we need to scale? And while you're saying that, give us your reflections on where you see the mini grid market in the next couple of years.
Thanks, Joanne. So from my perspective, I think the mini grid sector is generally ready to scale. It has been ready to scale, for the past 3-4 years, but the progress has been slow because of all of the uncertainty on regulations and all the government changes that have been happening in this region. And some subsidy programs that were there that have ended, and there's not been continuation. And at this point, the sector still needs subsidy. So in terms of what I think are the key triggers that we need to figure out for the sector to scale, I'd categorize them into three. The first is increased regulatory certainty, which everyone, I think most of the people on this call have covered, but in three main parts. So one is cost-reflective tariffs. You need to be able to know that when you go into a market, you can charge the tariff that helps you recover your cost. The second is a clear grid integration plan, because in a lot of these markets, we know at some point the grid will arrive. So it's helpful to know what happens, do you get compensated? But also to remember that most of these mini grids are built to the same technical specifications as the main grid. So, it's technically it would be possible to integrate. So we just need a regulatory framework that explains what happens. And the third thing on regulation is a streamlined permitting and licensing process. So in some of these countries, the regulations are there. It says, you should get a permit in X time, but you apply and then it takes, months or years longer. So the permitting process needs to be streamlined, and at least needs to be followed, to the letter. And then in addition to regulations as a main point, the second point is, having access to private and public funding. And I'm a bit more confident on this one because private capital is there, as I mentioned earlier. As Cross-Boundary Energy Access, we've raised $25 million. All of that capital, every shilling of it, should go into work towards mini grids in the next at least 2 years. We have a goal to raise $150 million, and we have the investors in our pipeline. So the private capital is there, senior debt equity, there's a lot of interest. So for our capital to come in, then we need supporting subsidy programs, because at this stage, rural electrification in Africa needs subsidy, whether it's main grid extension or solar home systems or mini grids. So it's not that mini grids are special or that developers are trying to make money. It's just the stage where we're at, that rural electrification needs subsidy. And if we get a subsidy program that can give developers certainty that if you develop pipeline for the next 3 years, then you can get $1 per connection, then developers will go out, and build the pipeline. And lastly is a profitable business model, which we think of this as a problem we can solve. PV battery prices, have been changing, prices have really decreased compared to where they were years back. There's a lot of work on demand stimulation and productive use appliances. So revenues will get better, the business model will improve. So my final take, in terms of where I see the market being, I'd say, to leave the funding and the business model concerns to the private sector, and to just ask for the government support. If the government supports us and provides clarity on tariffs, on licensing, and on grid arrival, then in the next 5 years, the sector will have scale, because private parties are working every day on every other of these items. Thanks.
That is an amazing place to end this conversation. Thank you so much for those comments. I can see one question on the Q&A box, and I'd like probably Morgan and Nicholas to address this. So the question goes from Sunil Mishra. He asks, who operates and manages mini grids? Mini grid operator or local group of villagers? So I know I have the answer, but I'd like the two mini grid developers on the panel to quickly address that question.
Yeah, if I may start. So,
Morgan, take the start.
Thank you. So on our side, we have local operators that are in the village, mainly for focusing on small issue with the people or payment issue or etc. And when we have a more technical issue, we have some technicians that are based in a cluster. A cluster is in charge of several villages, and then the technician is going to make our maintenance or reparation or whatever.
Yeah, Renuvia definitely sees this as a team effort between the local community and the company, right? Like we have a lot of technical expertise with our company. We've been doing this for a while, right? Like we know how to operate a mini grid very well, but we really need that local support, particularly for customer service and just having people on the ground who are capable of being able to do the work of technicians, right? So those two things are extremely important. We employ local security, we employ local site agents who coordinate with the community. And then we have like local customer service like right on site or very nearby in order to always be able to respond when we need them to handle issues.
Thank you so much. I'd like to hand this back to Minkashi and thank my panelists for being succinct and very articulate. Thank you so much, and thank you. I've enjoyed the knowledge management, the knowledge and thought leadership on this platform. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan. Can we take a viewer question? Should I put it up on the screen?
We've already handled that, Minkashi. Any other question?
All right. That's it. I think that's all we have for now.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Joan. You did an excellent job. Thanks so much for the terrific and very professional example you set as a moderator. It was a pleasure having you in such a well-planned and high-energy panel discussion. Thank you all the panelists for taking our time and joining us for this event and sharing your valuable insights on the topic. So with this, we have come to the end of day one of Eastern Africa Solar Week. Don't forget to join us tomorrow for exciting and insightful panel discussions on rooftop solar, future advancements in project models, finance and technology, followed by the prestigious awards ceremony. Till then, bye from our end. Now the floor is open for networking.